Have you ever seen two millionaire kids begging a janitor to teach them math instead of going to their elite tutors? This sounds crazy, right? But what happened next changed everything forever. It was almost 11 at night. The corporate building was empty, or at least it was supposed to be. Victor Ramirez was pushing his mop across the marble floors when he heard something strange. A cry. Soft, desperate, broken. He stopped. Who would be crying at this hour? He followed the sound until he found them. Two kids no older than 9, sitting on the hallway floor. Their school uniforms wrinkled, their faces red from crying so much. Between them were homework sheets full of equations and frustration smudges. Victor set his cleaning cart down carefully and approached slowly. "Hey, are you okay?" The two kids looked up, surprised. Their eyes were identical, swollen, full of a sadness too heavy for their age. The one on the left wiped his nose with his sleeve. "We're fine," he muttered, but his voice broke. Victor crouched down to their level. "You don't look fine. You look like your world just collapsed." The kids looked at each other. Something about this man, maybe his kind eyes, maybe his patience, made the one on the right speak. "Our mom just told us we can't compete in the state math contest," Ethan said in a barely audible voice. "We've been dreaming about this for months. We practiced every day. We wanted it so bad, but she said we're not good enough. She hired all these super expensive tutors," Liam added, "but we just don't get it. Not the way they teach it. They get frustrated with us. They make us feel stupid when we ask questions. And now Mom says if we don't improve in 2 weeks, she's pulling us out completely. She said we'd embarrass the family, her company." Victor felt something twist in his chest. He knew this feeling. The weight of disappointing someone you love, the crushing sense of not being enough. "What are you struggling with?" he asked quietly. Ethan pulled a crumpled sheet from his backpack. "This problem. No one can explain it to us in a way that makes sense. Our tutor just kept saying we weren't trying hard enough, but we were. We really were." Victor took the paper. It was a complex problem about velocities, distances, and time. The kind of problem he used to solve with his eyes closed before everything changed. Before he traded equations for mops and night shifts. He looked at these two kids, their desperate faces, their shattered dreams. He'd sworn off teaching, promised he'd never go back to that world. But seeing them now, he couldn't just walk away. "Okay," Victor said, sitting cross-legged on the floor next to them. "Forget everything your tutors told you. I'm going to tell you a story instead." Both kids blinked. "A story? Trust me. What if I tell you this problem isn't about numbers? It's about two pirates racing to a treasure island." Liam's eyebrows furrowed. "Pirates?" "Yeah. One pirate has a faster ship, but starts from farther away. The other pirate has a slower ship but gets a head start. Who gets to the treasure first?" As Victor began weaving the story, something magical happened. He didn't lecture, didn't drill mechanically. He drew simple pictures on the back of the sheet. Stick figure pirates, wave lines, a little island with an X marking the spot. He asked questions, gently guiding them when they stumbled, celebrating when they grasped a concept. "So if this pirate travels at this speed," Ethan said, his finger tracing the drawing. "And this one has this head start," Liam finished, excitement replacing despair, "then we need to find when they meet." 20 minutes passed like seconds. By the end, both kids had solved the problem. More importantly, they were smiling. "Can you teach us more?" Liam asked, eyes shining now. Victor hesitated. "Teaching." The word tasted both bitter and sweet. "But these kids." "One more problem," he said. "Then I need to finish my work." They tackled another problem together. This time about astronauts and rocket trajectories. The twins were smart. Their minds just needed the right key to unlock. They were so absorbed they didn't hear the elevator ding or the sharp click of heels against the marble. "Liam, Ethan, what are you doing?" The three jumped. Sophia Carter was standing 3 feet away, her executive suit impeccable even at this hour, her expression a mix of confusion and disapproval. Her dark hair pulled back severely. Her eyes cold as they moved from her sons to the janitor, sitting on the floor with them, sheets covered in pirate drawings. "Mom," Ethan jumped to his feet. "He was helping us. He explained the problem in a way we really understood." Sophia's gaze landed on Victor as he stood, suddenly very aware of his cleaning uniform, the mop cart behind him, the vast distance between a CEO and the night shift janitor. "I appreciate your kindness," she said, her tone polite but firm. "But my sons have professionally qualified tutors. Come on, boys. It's late." She wasn't rude. Sophia prided herself on treating all employees with basic respect, but her message was clear. This was inappropriate. Whatever this janitor thought he was doing, it wasn't his place. "But Mom," Liam started. Now. The twins gathered their things, looking back at Victor with pleading eyes. He gave them a small nod, a silent message. It's okay. Go. As the elevator doors closed on their disappointed faces, Victor was left alone in the hallway, the sheet with his pirate drawing still in his hand. He should have felt relief. He'd almost let himself teach again, almost opened that door he'd sealed shut. But all he felt was the familiar ache of watching someone walk away. Have you ever felt like you failed someone who really needed you? Like you let them down when they needed you to show up? You're not alone in that feeling. As Victor went back to his cart and resumed mopping, the building's silence enveloped him like a familiar coat. Most people would see this job as a step down, a defeat. There was a time when he would have agreed, but that was before. The memories came uninvited, as they always did in the quiet hours. 10 years ago, Victor Ramirez had been someone entirely different. He'd been the youngest person to win the National Math Championship at 16. At 22, he'd earned his PhD. At 25, he was the most sought-after private tutor in the state. Elite families paid him exorbitant fees. Their children needed perfect grades, Ivy League acceptances, competition wins. Victor delivered every time. His calendar was booked months in advance. Sessions from dawn to late night. Barely a breath between appointments. The money flowed steadily. He bought a house, provided well, felt the deep satisfaction of building something solid. But he was never home. His wife Maria never complained. She was gentle, understanding, patient beyond measure. She raised their daughter Sophia alone, navigating the challenges of parenting a girl with autism. The sensory sensitivities, the need for routine, the meltdowns that could last hours. Sophia needed consistency, patience, and presence. Victor loved them both deeply, but his work consumed him. He told himself he was providing for their future, that the sacrifice was temporary, that this is what success looked like. He missed bedtime stories, missed parent-teacher meetings, missed quiet Sunday mornings. He promised himself and Maria that things would slow down next month, next year, when he'd saved enough. Then Maria's health started failing. It began with fatigue she dismissed as stress. Then came pain she couldn't ignore. The diagnosis hit like a freight train. A rare, aggressive condition. No clear treatment path, no promises, just time slipping away. Victor withdrew from his tutoring practice immediately. Finally home, finally present. But by then, watching helplessly as the woman he loved fought a battle she couldn't win felt like its own kind of torture. She passed on a Tuesday morning in early spring. Victor had been holding her hand. 8-year-old Sophia had been sitting in the corner, rocking back and forth, her small hands over her ears, trying to process a loss her mind couldn't fully comprehend. The grief was suffocating, but worse than the grief was the guilt. The crushing, inescapable guilt. He'd chosen prestige over presence, success over Sundays. He'd had years with Maria, and he'd spent them in other people's homes, teaching other people's children, building a reputation while his own family needed him. After the funeral, colleagues urged him to return. Parents called with generous offers. His reputation remained impeccable, but Victor couldn't step back into that world. Every equation felt like an accusation. Every competition trophy on his shelf mocked him. Sophia needed him now more than ever. Without her mother, her world had become even more unpredictable and frightening. She needed stability, routine, and a father who actually showed up. So Victor made a decision that shocked everyone who knew him. He applied for a night shift janitorial job. The pay was modest. The work was simple, but the night shift meant he could be home every morning when Sophia woke. He could make her breakfast, take her to her special education program, attend her therapy appointments, be there for the bedtime routine she desperately needed. His former colleagues thought he'd lost his mind. Some pitied him, but for the first time in years, Victor slept peacefully. He was finally the father he should have been all along. Victor didn't expect to see the twins again, but the next night there they were, waiting near his cleaning cart on the 5th floor. "We came back," Liam said simply. "Our mom doesn't need to know," Ethan added quickly. "We just want to learn the way you teach. Please." Victor should have said no. He should have sent them back to their expensive tutors. But looking at their hopeful faces he couldn't. "Just chatting," he said carefully. "If anyone asks, we're just chatting. Got it?" They nodded enthusiastically. And so it began. Secret lessons disguised as casual conversations. If supervisors passed by, Victor was just chatting with the CEO's kids while emptying trash bins. But those conversations covered complex math concepts transformed into adventures. A problem about optimal velocity became a story about race car drivers competing on dangerous tracks. A question about water pressure turned into a tale of deep-sea divers hunting sunken treasures. Geometry transformed into architects designing impossible buildings that touched the clouds. The transformation was remarkable. In 2 weeks, the twins' practice test scores started climbing. More importantly, their fear evaporated. Math stopped being an enemy and became a puzzle, an adventure, something to explore instead of endure. They stopped crying during tutoring sessions. They started asking questions with excitement instead of fear. They studied not because they had to, but because they wanted to understand. Sophia Carter hadn't chosen to be the way she was. She'd been shaped into it. Her father had been brilliant, successful, and ruthless. From the moment she could read, he pushed her relentlessly. Average wasn't acceptable. Good wasn't enough. She would be exceptional or she would be nothing. At 28, she was the youngest CEO in her industry. At 33, she ran her company with ruthless efficiency. She was respected, feared, and utterly alone. Emotional connections felt like vulnerability she couldn't afford. When she had Liam and Ethan, she approached motherhood the same way she approached board meetings, with clear expectations and measurable outcomes. She hired the best tutors money could buy, enrolled them in elite programs, expected results. But the boys kept struggling, especially in math. Baffled her. They were smart. They should be succeeding. Instead, tutor after tutor complained about their lack of focus, their emotional fragility, their tears. When her company agreed to sponsor the state math competition, an event that would bring national media attention, she pictured her sons on that stage winning, proving the Carter name meant excellence. Instead, they were failing practice tests. The ultimatum she delivered in her office didn't come from cruelty. It came from fear. Fear that they'd embarrass her publicly. Fear that she'd failed as a mother the same way she feared disappointing her own father. She didn't know how to be soft. She only knew how to push. It was all she'd been taught. 5 weeks after that first encounter, Liam showed up early for his nighttime conversation with Victor. The janitor wasn't there yet, so Liam wandered, bored, peering into the storage closets lining the hallway. One door was ajar. Inside, among bottles of cleaning solution and boxes of trash bags, Liam saw something unusual. An old leather notebook, its cover worn and cracked with age. Curious, he pulled it out. The first page had a name written in neat handwriting. Victor Ramirez, Ph.D. Liam's eyes widened. He flipped through pages filled with complex math proofs, lecture notes, teaching philosophies. Then came the newspaper clippings carefully pressed between the pages. Local prodigy wins national math championship. Dr. Ramirez named state's top educator. Students under Ramirez's tutelage sweep Ivy League acceptances. There was a photograph. A younger Victor in a suit, not a janitor's uniform, accepting a trophy. His smile was different then, confident, unbroken. Ethan, Liam called urgently. You need to see this. When Ethan arrived, they went through the notebook together, piece by piece, piecing together the truth. Their janitor, the man their mother had dismissed as unqualified, had been a celebrated professor, a genius in the academic world who'd mysteriously left it behind. Why would he give all this up? Ethan whispered. I don't know, Liam said. But Mom needs to see this. She needs to know she was wrong about him. The next morning they took the notebook to their mother's office. Sophia was reviewing quarterly reports when her sons walked in, holding something carefully like it was fragile. Mom, Liam said, placing the notebook on her polished desk. You told us that janitor wasn't qualified to teach us. You were wrong. You need to see this. Sophia looked at the notebook, then her sons' serious faces. As she began reading, her expression shifted from confusion to surprise to something that looked like shame. Page after page revealed a truth she hadn't bothered to uncover. This man she judged by his uniform had achieved more than most people dreamed of. His credentials were impeccable. His mind was extraordinary. And she dismissed him based solely on his job title. She'd done exactly what she criticized in others. Making assumptions about worth based on appearance. That night, Sophia left work early for the first time in months. She found Victor in the parking lot loading his cleaning supplies into his old car. Mr. Ramirez, she said, her voice quieter than usual. Can I speak with you? Victor turned, recognizing her immediately. They stood in the dim garage, the CEO and the janitor, the distance between them suddenly feeling much smaller. My son showed me your notebook. I owe you an apology. I made assumptions about you based on your position here. That was wrong of me. You don't owe me anything, Victor replied gently. Yes, I do. She stepped closer, her walls cracking. Why are you here? With your background, you could be teaching at any university, running your own firm. Why janitorial work? For a long moment, Victor didn't answer. Then, standing in that parking garage as the last light faded from the sky, He told her everything. About Maria, about the brilliant career that consumed him, about choosing prestige over presents, success over Sundays. About watching his wife fade while he was finally home, but too late. About 8-year-old Sophia who experienced the world so differently, who needed routine and patience, and a father who actually showed up. After Maria died, Victor said, his voice thick, I couldn't go back to that life. Every equation reminded me of what I'd lost, what I'd sacrificed. I needed a job that let me be present for Sophia. The night shift meant I could be home every morning when she woke. I could make her breakfast, take her to therapy, be there for everything she needed. I chose this job specifically because it meant I could finally be the father I should have been all along, even if it meant giving up everything else. Sophia listened without interrupting, and something fundamental shifted inside her. She'd built her entire identity on achievement, on climbing higher, on never showing weakness. But this man had done the opposite. He'd willingly stepped down, sacrificed prestige and money and status, all for his daughter. It was the antithesis of everything her father had taught her, everything she'd believed success required. And standing here listening to his story, she realized she'd been wrong about so many things. Would you continue teaching them? She asked, her voice vulnerable. My sons, officially with my blessing. Victor hesitated. I don't know if I'm ready to call it teaching. They've learned more from you in 5 weeks than from a year of expensive tutors. Not because you're more qualified, though you clearly are, but because you see them. You don't treat them like projects or problems to fix. You treat them like kids who deserve patience. That's what they've needed all along. Victor thought of Liam and Ethan's faces when concepts clicked, their growing confidence, their joy in learning. He thought of Maria, who would have wanted him to share his gift, not bury it. Informally, he said finally, I can't commit to anything more, but I'll keep helping them as long as they want me to. Sophia nodded, understanding more than he realized. The state math competition arrived on a bright late spring Saturday. The large conference hall had been transformed into a testing center. Rows upon rows of desks, each with a nameplate and a set of pencils. Hundreds of nervous students filing in with parents gripping their shoulders, whispering last-minute encouragements. Liam and Ethan sat among them, dressed in their school blazers, hearts pounding against their ribs. Victor stood at the back of the room in his cleaning uniform. He'd been assigned to work the event anyway, setting up chairs, making sure everything ran smoothly, but he'd positioned himself where he could see the twins, where he could offer one last bit of silent encouragement. When the boys spotted him, he gave a small nod. You can do this. The test began. As Liam read the first problem, he heard Victor's voice in his mind. Every problem is a story. Find the characters. Understand their journey. The answer will reveal itself. A question about compound interest transformed into a farmer planting crops, watching them grow. A geometry problem became an artist designing a sculpture. Each challenge was an adventure waiting to be explored, not an obstacle to fear. Ethan worked beside his brother, their methods identical, their confidence unwavering. Around them, students struggled, erased frantically, second-guessed themselves. But Liam and Ethan had found their rhythm. Time passed. Problems fell. When the final bell rang, both boys set down their pencils and immediately looked to the back of the room. Victor was smiling. 3 weeks of waiting followed. 3 weeks of normal life while tests were graded and results compiled. Then came the ceremony. The conference hall was packed again, but this time with parents in expensive suits, company executives, local media. Sophia stood on a small stage at the front, microphone in hand. She'd been nervous all morning, though she'd never admit it. Not for the company's reputation, but for her sons. The boys had transformed over these past months. She'd watched fear turn to curiosity, frustration to joy. Whatever the outcome, she knew Victor had already given them something priceless. But she hoped. Oh, how she hoped. In third place, Sophia announced, her voice steady despite her racing heart. With a score of 94 out of 100, Ethan Carter. The room erupted in applause. Ethan walked to the stage, his face breaking into the biggest smile Sophia had seen in years. She handed him his medal and for a moment allowed herself to hug him. And in first place, she continued, her throat tight, with a perfect score of 100, Liam Carter. The applause was thunderous. Liam bounded onto the stage, accepting his medal with shaking hands. He stood beside his brother, both scanning the crowd. Then they saw him. Victor standing at the side of the room in his cleaning uniform. Tears streaming down his face, his smile so proud it could have lit the entire building. Without hesitation, without caring about the hundreds of eyes watching, both boys jumped off the stage and ran to him. They crashed into Victor with the force of their joy, wrapping their arms around him, and he held them both, this janitor and these two kids, and the room went completely silent. Everyone watched, executives, parents, media, as these well-dressed boys from one of the state's wealthiest families hugged a man in a cleaning uniform like he was family. Sophia stood on the stage watching this moment, and tears she hadn't cried in years threatened to break her carefully maintained composure. Then she did something unprecedented. She went back to the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her voice cutting through the silence. "I'd like to introduce someone. Victor Ramirez, would you please join us?" The twins pulled Victor forward and reluctantly, so reluctantly, he walked to the stage. Sophia looked at him, this man who'd taught her sons more than math, who'd shown her what really mattered. And she spoke not as CEO but as mother. "Mr. Ramirez reminded me that wisdom doesn't come from titles or salaries. It comes from dedication, compassion, and the willingness to meet people where they are. He gave my sons something money couldn't buy. He made them believe in themselves. He made them love learning, and he did it without asking for anything in return." The applause that followed was deafening. If this story is touching your heart, let me know. Your support helps me bring you more stories like this. In the weeks after the competition, Sophia made changes. She started leaving work at reasonable hours, started having dinner with her sons instead of reviewing reports. She started asking about their feelings, their fears, their dreams, not just their grades. She also approached Victor with a proposal. "I want to open a learning center," she said one night, finding him after a shift. "Free education for kids who struggle in traditional settings. Innovative methods, patient teachers. I want you to run it." Victor looked at her. "I can't. Name your salary. It's not about money." He shook his head. "I'm not ready. I don't deserve to." "My sons would disagree," Sophia said gently. "As would the dozens of other kids who could benefit from your gift. Think about it, please." But Victor couldn't. The guilt was too heavy, the wounds too raw. He declined. Life went on. The twins excelled in school. Victor worked his night shifts and cared for Sophia during the day. Everything was fine until one difficult night. Sophia was having one of her hardest days. A change in her therapy schedule had disrupted her routine, and she'd been struggling all afternoon. Meltdowns, tears, the overwhelming sensory input that sometimes made the world unbearable. By evening, Victor held her as she rocked, exhausted from crying, her small body shaking. "Dad," she said suddenly, her voice so soft he almost missed it. "Are you sad?" "Sometimes, sweetie. Have you ever wondered what you'd do if you found two abandoned girls in the middle of a snowstorm? Would you leave them there? Would you call someone and keep going?" A single dad made a decision that Christmas Eve that not only saved two lives. He uncovered family secrets so dark they'll chill your blood. Stay until the end, because what happened next will leave you speechless. The snow was falling mercilessly that Christmas Eve. Marcus Fletcher was driving through the streets while his wipers worked at full speed, trying to keep the glass clear. Beside him, his 10-year-old son Lucas had his nose pressed to the window, watching the houses decorated with Christmas lights. "Dad, look at that house, it has a giant snowman," Lucas said excitedly, fogging the glass with his breath. Marcus smiled, though inside he carried an enormous weight. This tradition of driving around the neighborhood to see the Christmas lights was one of the few things that still felt normal. One of the few that hadn't been destroyed by debts and the pain of losing Elena, his wife, just a year and a half ago. "Should we head home, champ?" "The storm's getting worse," Marcus suggested, seeing how the snow was becoming denser. "Just one more street, please," Lucas begged with those brown eyes that reminded him so much of his mother. "Okay, one more," Marcus gave in, turning onto a less traveled road. Fewer houses, fewer lights, just darkness and snow falling relentlessly. And then he slammed on the brakes with all his might. The car skidded a bit before coming to a complete stop. Lucas lurched forward, held by the seatbelt. "Dad." "What's wrong?" the boy shouted, scared. "Do you see that?" Marcus whispered, unable to believe what his eyes were seeing. Under the car's headlights, two small figures hugged each other by the side of the road. Girls. Two little girls, shivering violently in the snow. "Dad, they're girls?" Lucas's voice broke with panic. Marcus felt his blood run cold. He put the car in park, grabbed his coat from the back seat and ran out into the brutal cold. When he got closer, the horror of the scene hit him like a punch to the stomach. Two identical twin girls, no more than 8 years old. Their long blonde hair was frozen, full of ice and snow. Their clothes, thin and inadequate, were soaked and clung to their skinny little bodies. Their lips had a bluish tint that made him nauseous. But what enraged him most were the bruises. Dark, ugly marks everywhere, on their arms, on their little faces, all over. "Hey," he said softly, kneeling in the snow. My name is Marcus. Can you hear me? One of the girls tried to speak, but her teeth chattered so hard no words came out. They looked at him with empty, terrified eyes. Marcus wrapped both in his coat. They barely reacted. Their bodies shook so hard it seemed painful. Lucas, Marcus called, turn the heat up to max. He carried both girls in his arms. They weighed almost nothing, like he was carrying little birds. He took them to the car while Lucas had already turned on the heat and was taking off his own jacket. Here, Dad put this on them too, Lucas said, his face pale with shock. Marcus settled the girls in the back seat, wrapping them in both coats and the emergency blanket he kept in the trunk. They shook so much the whole seat moved. Lucas climbed in back with them, pressing close to give them body heat. We need to take them to the hospital right now, Lucas said urgently. But when the word hospital was mentioned, panic flashed in the girls' glassy eyes. One of them grabbed Marcus's arm with surprising strength. No, sir. Please don't take us back. She'll hurt us. Marcus's jaw tightened. Every instinct screamed that these girls needed immediate medical attention, but the terror in their eyes told him something much worse awaited them wherever back was. I'm not taking you anywhere, he said firmly. But you're freezing. You need help. Home, the other girl asked with a whimper. Can we just go somewhere warm? We won't cause trouble. We'll be good. We promise. We'll be very good. Marcus looked at Lucas, who nodded urgently, and then at these two terrified girls who'd rather risk dying of hypothermia than go back to wherever they'd been. Okay, he said softly. We're going to my house. You'll be safe there, I promise. The smallest nod from both girls was enough. As Marcus drove with white knuckles gripping the wheel, Lucas talked gently to the twins. What's your name? A long pause, then barely audible, Mia. And she's Zoe. I'm Lucas. How old are you? 8. How long have you been out in the snow? The girls looked at each other. Mia, who seemed a little more alert, whispered, Since this morning. Lucas's voice rose. You've been out 8 hours in a snowstorm? Marcus's hands gripped the wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. 8 hours on Christmas Eve in sub-zero temperatures. These girls could have died. What kind of monster does this to children? At home, Marcus prepared a warm bath, not hot. He knew warming them too fast could be dangerous. The girls sat together in the tub, still shivering, while Lucas brought them cups of warm water to sip slowly. While Marcus prepared soup in the kitchen, his mind wouldn't stop racing. He'd lost Elena 18 months ago, watched her fade from a vibrant, beautiful woman to a shadow of herself as the autoimmune disease ravaged her body. The experimental treatments had drained all their savings, leaving them drowning in debt. He could barely keep his own life afloat. And now this. 2 abused, starving girls who'd literally appeared out of nowhere in the snow. Elena, if you can hear me, what do I do? He murmured. But he already knew. There was only one thing to do. When the girls came out of the bath wrapped in towels, Marcus saw the full extent of their condition. They were skeletal. Ribs visible through their pale skin. Bruises in various stages of healing covered their bodies. Old scars. New scars. Lucas dressed them in his old pajamas, rolling up the sleeves and pant legs. Marcus saw tears streaming down his son's face, but the boy said nothing, just helped the girls with gentle hands. At the kitchen table, Marcus placed bowls of soup and crackers in front of them. The girls stared at the food as if they couldn't believe it was real. It's okay, Marcus encouraged. Eat slowly. Take your time. They ate desperately fast, barely chewing. Marcus had to gently slow them down, explaining that eating too fast after starving for so long could make them sick. When they finished their bowls, they looked at him with so much hope it broke his heart. Can we have more? You can eat as much as you need, Marcus said firmly. Always. After second bowls, they finally stopped shaking violently. Lucas suddenly stood and ran to his room, returning with arms full of toys, a teddy bear, coloring books, crayons, a wooden puzzle. These were my favorites when I was younger, he said shyly. You can keep them if you want. Zoe reached out and touched the teddy bear's soft fur, her eyes filling with tears. For us, sir? Yes, sweetie. For you. Marcus sat down then, his voice gentle but serious. Girls, if it's okay, I need to understand what happened. Where are your parents? The twins exchanged a look. Then Mia spoke. Our mom and dad died when we were 3. We don't remember them much. Marcus's chest tightened. Who's been taking care of you? Our Aunt Vera, Mom's sister. We live with her, Uncle Victor, and our cousin. And today? What happened today? Mia's hand went to a bruise on her arm. We asked for more food at breakfast. They only give us one meal a day. Today they gave us a small bowl of oatmeal, but we were so hungry. When we asked for more, Aunt Vera got really mad. She said we were greedy and ungrateful. Zoe continued, her voice broken. She said if we wanted more food we could go out and beg for it. She threw us outside, said we couldn't come back until we got money or found our own food. Marcus felt rage building in his chest. Does this happen often? Both girls nodded, tears streaming down their faces. Aunt Vera says we eat too much and don't work enough, but we're always hungry, sir. We clean, cook, and wash everything in the house all day. Our cousin doesn't have to do anything. And when we cry or complain, she hits us with her belt or locks us in the basement or throws us out and tells us to go beg. And your uncle? Uncle Victor tries to help sometimes. He gives us food when Aunt Vera isn't looking. He says he's sorry, but he never stops her. He says he has to think about our cousin. Lucas moved closer to the twins, his young face fierce with determination. They're not going back there, right, Dad? They can stay with us. Marcus looked at his son, the boy who'd lost his mother but still had room in his heart to love, and then at these two broken girls who'd nearly died in the snow. His savings were gone. He was drowning in debt. The mortgage was 3 months behind. This would be their last Christmas in this house. But none of that mattered. Yes, he said. You stay here. You're safe now. Marcus looked at the clock. Almost midnight. Christmas Day was minutes away. An idea formed. Lucas, help me with something. While the twins dozed on the couch wrapped in blankets, Marcus and Lucas worked quietly. They pulled out the small artificial tree Marcus hadn't planned to put up this year, trying to save money. Lucas hung ornaments while Marcus strung the lights. They took out the Christmas stockings, including 2 that had belonged to Elena. Mom would want them to have them, Lucas whispered. Marcus blinked back tears. Yes, she would. They wrapped the few gifts Marcus had bought for Lucas, then raided Lucas's room for more things to wrap. Books, toys, anything that could bring joy. By the time they finished, it was past midnight. Marcus and Lucas stepped back to admire their work. The tree glowed softly in the dark living room, gifts nestled beneath, stockings hanging by the fireplace. It's perfect, Dad, Lucas whispered. Let's get some sleep, Marcus said quietly. We'll let them discover it in the morning. They went to bed, leaving the lights on. A few hours later, as dawn began to break on Christmas morning, Mia stirred on the couch. Her eyes opened slowly, adjusting to the soft glow around her. Then she saw it. She sat up quickly, her heart racing. Zoe, she whispered urgently, shaking her sister. Zoe, wake up. Look. Zoe's eyes opened. When she saw what Mia was seeing, her mouth fell open. Both stood slowly, as if moving too fast might make it all disappear. They crept toward the tree, their bare feet patting softly on the carpet. Then they stopped, frozen in awe. The tree shimmered with warm white lights. Real gifts sat beneath, wrapped in colorful paper. Stockings hung by the fireplace. Snow fell softly outside the window. 4 mugs sat on the coffee table, ready for hot chocolate. Is this real? Zoe whispered, tears already filling her eyes. Footsteps on the stairs made them turn. Marcus appeared with Lucas right behind him. Merry Christmas, Marcus said softly. I know yesterday was horrible. I know you've been through things no child should experience, but you're safe now. You're warm. You're fed. And you're part of this family. Mia and Zoe stood staring, mouths agape. Tears began streaming down their faces. But these weren't tears of pain. This is for us too? Zoe whispered. This is for all of us, Lucas said, taking their hands. Come on, you can open presents. The next hour was pure magic. The twins opened gifts with shaking hands, gasping with delight at each book, each stuffed animal, each coloring book. Lucas showed them how to make hot chocolate mustaches. And for the first time Marcus heard them laugh. They watched an old Christmas movie together, the 4 of them piled on the couch under blankets. The twins ate cookies Lucas had baked the week before. Slowly, gradually, some of the fear left their eyes. As the morning wore on, Mia and Zoe were curled up on either side of Marcus. Lucas had his head on Marcus's shoulder. Marcus looked at these 3 children and made a silent vow. Whatever it cost, whatever he sacrificed, he'd keep them safe. This was his family now. The days after Christmas blurred into a whirlwind of phone calls and paperwork. Marcus contacted Child Protective Services, then the police. A doctor examined the girls, documenting their injuries, their malnutrition, the signs of prolonged abuse. The police arrested Vera within a week. But the twins were still skittish. They still called him sir. They hoarded food in their room, eating carefully as if each meal might be the last. They flinched at sudden movements. Nightmares woke them screaming every night. Yet slowly things began to change. Lucas became their champion. He shared everything, taught them games, read them stories at night. The longing he'd always had for siblings poured into Mia and Zoe like water on dry ground. The twins began to trust. They started saying Mr. Marcus instead of Sir. Mia laughed at one of Lucas's jokes. Zoe asked if she could help make breakfast. They started acting like girls instead of prisoners. But as they got more comfortable, they shared more stories that made Marcus's blood boil. Sleeping in the unheated basement, being locked in closets for hours, the marks on their backs from being hit with a belt, going days with only one small meal, being forced to do all the housework while their cousin did nothing. The detective in charge pulled Marcus aside after taking their statements. Mr. Fletcher, I need to be honest with you. Without solid evidence, photos, videos, additional witnesses, it's their word against hers. A good defense lawyer will say the girls are traumatized and confused. That's not enough, Marcus said flatly. I get it. We'll do everything we can, but I want you prepared. Marcus visited Vera in detention. The woman was in her 30s, hard features and cold eyes. She looked at him with pure disdain. You filled their heads with lies. Those girls were wild, disobedient. I was teaching them discipline. Discipline? Marcus's voice shook. You starved them, beat them, threw them out in a snowstorm to die. They're lying. Just like their mother lied. Vera's face twisted with rage. Sophia always got everything, always the favorite, the beautiful one. I loved James first, but she stole him from me. He should have been mine. We were meant to be together, but she came along and he chose her. She got the rich husband, the nice house, the daughters, everything. Marcus stared at her, understanding dawning like ice water down his spine. You tortured two innocent girls because you were jealous of their dead mother. Those girls reminded me every day of everything I should have had, everything Sophia took from me. You're not just cruel, Marcus said quietly. You're pathetic. But the system worked slowly, too slowly. The prosecutor warned that Vera would likely be released on bail. Without concrete evidence, the case might not go to trial. Marcus couldn't sleep. He'd used his last savings to hire a lawyer for the adoption proceedings. He'd taken out another loan just to cover expenses. The twins were thriving, finally acting like kids, laughing, playing, healing under his and Lucas's care. His son had found purpose in being the big brother, and Mia and Zoe were starting to blossom. But Marcus couldn't protect them if Vera got out. Then one afternoon a well-dressed man knocked on his door. Mr. Fletcher, my name is Edward Blake. I was the lawyer for James and Sophia Williams, the twins' parents. I've been searching for Mia and Zoe for 5 years. Marcus's heart sank. Was someone trying to take them away? But Mr. Blake's expression was kind, almost relieved. May I come in? This is going to sound unusual, but I promise it's good news. Inside, Mr. Blake set his briefcase on the table and pulled out a thick folder. When James and Sophia died in that accident, they left a substantial trust fund for their daughters. I was named the trustee. But there was a problem. Vera refused to complete the legal guardianship paperwork. She took the girls, but she never officially became their legal guardian. Without that documentation, I couldn't access the trust or even confirm where the girls were. He opened the folder showing Marcus' official documents. For 5 years I've been monitoring every child welfare case in this state and 3 surrounding states. I've been reviewing foster care records, adoption proceedings, hospital admissions, anywhere these girls might show up in the system. I hired a private investigator. I filed missing persons alerts. I even contacted every elementary school in a 100-mile radius. Mr. Blake's voice grew thick with emotion. When the adoption finalized, their new legal names entered the public records database. That triggered an alert in my monitoring system. After 5 years of searching, I finally found them. Marcus stared at him, barely daring to believe it. The trust was set up to ensure Mia and Zoe never wanted for anything. James came from old money and was a successful investment banker. Sophia was hardworking and dedicated. Together they built something substantial for their daughter's future. He slid papers across the table. The full amount, which I'm not at liberty to disclose until the girls turn 18, is held in trust and invested conservatively. But as their legal guardian, you're entitled to monthly distributions for their education, medical care, housing, food, clothing, and general welfare. The amount is calculated to provide them with a comfortable middle-class life. Marcus took the papers with shaking hands. The monthly amount listed made his eyes blur with tears. It wasn't extravagant wealth, but it was enough. Enough to pay off his crushing debts. Enough to keep the house. Enough to stop skipping meals. Enough to finally breathe. Enough to give all 3 children the life they deserved. There's one more thing, Mr. Blake said gently, pulling out a sealed envelope. Sophia wrote letters for her daughters before she died. She and James had a premonition about that trip. They called it intuition. She wanted them to have them when they were old enough. I also have the location of James and Sophia's graves. When you're ready, you might want to take the girls to visit. Marcus looked at this man who'd spent 5 years searching, who'd never given up. Mr. Blake, thank you. Thank you for not forgetting them. The lawyer's eyes shone. How could I? James was my best friend. Sophia was like a sister to me. When they died, I made a promise to find their girls and protect them. I just wish I'd found them sooner, before Vera. You found them when they needed to be found, Marcus said firmly. And now they're safe. That's what matters. A month later, on a bright spring morning, Marcus drove Lucas and the twins to the cemetery. The grass was green, dotted with wildflowers. The headstone was simple but beautiful. James and Sophia Williams, beloved parents. Gone too soon. The twins knelt, placing white lilies on the grass. Hi, Mom and Dad, Mia said softly. We're Mia and Zoe. You probably don't remember us. We were so little when you left, but we want you to know we're okay now. We have a new dad. His name is Marcus. He saved us. He found us on Christmas Eve when we were freezing in the snow. He took us home and gave us the best Christmas we've ever had. And we have a brother too, Mia added. Lucas. He's the best brother in the whole world. He shares everything with us and makes us laugh. We're safe now, Mom, Zoe whispered. We're finally safe and happy. We wish you were here, but we think you'd be proud of us. And we hope you're proud of Dad too. He sacrificed so much to keep us safe. Marcus stood back, tears streaming down his face. Lucas leaned against him, crying too. The twins stood and ran to them, and the 4 stood there, a family born not of blood but of choice, courage and love. Thank you, Marcus whispered to the sky, to Elena, to James and Sophia, to whatever force had guided him down that snowy road. Thank you for trusting them to me. As they walked back to the car, Zoe slipped her hand into Marcus's. Dad. Yes, sweetie? Can we come visit again? Marcus squeezed her hand, his heart full. Whenever you want, my love. Mia took his other hand. And Dad, thank you for everything. For saving us, for loving us, for making us a family. Marcus knelt, pulling all 3 children into a fierce hug. You don't need to thank me. Being your dad, being part of this family, is the greatest gift I could have received. You 3 saved me as much as I saved you. As they drove home, the radio playing softly, Lucas chattering about a school project, the twins laughing in the back seat, Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in years. They'd all been broken by loss, by cruelty, by circumstances beyond their control. But somehow, in finding each other, they'd become whole again. And that was the true Christmas miracle. Look, if this story got to your heart like it got to mine, if it reminded you that love is a choice, that family is who shows up when you need it most, and that sometimes the greatest gifts come wrapped in the hardest moments, don't leave without doing something. Give this video a like, share it with someone who needs to remember that kindness is never wasted. And remember this, be the person who stops. Be the person who sees. Be the person who helps. You never know whose life you might be saving. Maybe today you can be someone else's Marcus. Maybe today your small action can change someone's destiny. See you in the next story. And before you go, tell me in the comments, have you ever witnessed an act of kindness that changed a life? I love reading your stories. Until soon, family.